Yeah, and I wanted to go back and touch on something when you just said earlier about MSRP and how the OEM bakes in all the costs and all the profits that the dealer would make selling at MSRP. They actually do that. They actually bake that in at the invoice price, right? Like the cost of all the cost of everything wrapped up, marketing and the dealer's profit margins and all that. That's baked into the invoice price. And there's a lot of times added kickbacks on the back end. So if a dealership sells at invoice price, they're going to make the dealership makes their cut, the OEM makes all their cut. Everybody's paid. Now, when you sell at MSRP, that in itself is extra padded profit on top because selling at invoice price still pays everybody, right? It's still everybody puts money in their pocket at invoice pricing. So that used to be the gold standard before this. Maybe not high end vehicles and not vehicles that are very specialized, very limited production vehicles. But for the most part, an F-150 or a Tundra, you used to be able to get an invoice price, or maybe even I've seen it as low as 4 or 5%. There's actually dealers. If you get on markups now, you can find dealers that sell 4 or 5% below invoice price if you order, right? So that's like, that could be on like an F-250, a Super Duty F-250, that could be $15,000 below MSRP pricing, right? They're out there. And the whole point of the website is to literally force competition across all the dealerships. That's what we want. We want to open up transparency that forces dealerships to be better competitive with their neighbors and get the best prices for people that are looking on the site.
You know, that brings up a good topic that I don't know a lot about. Maybe anyone that's watching this can write in the comments what they're aware of it. But I did read something that said, Trey, it was actually, I believe, on a post on LinkedIn that we shared where one of our contributors or our audience members mentioned that the OEMs don't allow their dealers and some of their verbiage to advertise over MSRP, which the fine print of that means you advertise at MSRP and then you gate the actual out the door, any additional add-ons or markup prices. So I'm curious if any of you guys know anything about that in particular, or if we should leave it for a different episode.
Well,
I actually announce it so people can write in the comments and maybe they know about what this gentleman was speaking about.
Yeah, so actually, a few months back, we were thinking about getting just a little commuter hybrid Honda. It was like at the time it was a Honda Insight, but they discontinued it. So then I started looking at the Accord hybrid, and we called. You know how I operate. I must have called 100 dealerships around Houston, and one in particular that I talked to, I told them I was with markups, right? I was like, just so you're aware, I'll probably discuss our interaction of what's happening on markups. I didn't want him to say something that might get him in trouble if he did, so I wanted him to be aware of it. And he told me that Honda, this was just Honda, I haven't heard from any other OEMs, but Honda forbade them from advertising the actual price of the cars online. They had to put MSRP pricing, and that's because it puts a bad taste in people's mouths when they see the MSRP pricing coupled with a $10,000 markup online. And to me, that proves that OEMs are causing a lot of this rift in the customer. Like, they don't even realize how mad they're making customers over the fact that they can't get the out-the-door pricing online.
And like, how bad it reflects on the dealers. Like, the customers don't think that's a manufacturer issue. I mean, they don't know any better. Like, they're not going to spend time researching that because, I mean, most normal people wouldn't. So, I mean, it just goes to show what a bad rap that even the best possible dealer you could ever go to has to abide by that rule. And that's just absolutely, that's absurd. You know, especially, you know, when we're talking about, you know, there's good and bad dealerships, like regardless of good or bad, they're the ones taking the heat from that. They're the ones that are leaving the bad taste in the consumer's mouth, just because they're the ones that are the front, right? Like they're the brick and mortar. Those are the people that consumers are building relationships with. So I am actually really glad to see a lot of the pushback that NADA and some of these groups, progressive groups of dealerships and dealership franchises are pushing back to the OEM, because something like that is absurd. In this day and age, I totally get that as a franchise, you can, you know, ultimately determine whatever rules you want, and the dealers, you know, if they agree to that and they're going to be, you know, part of that brand, part of that franchise, then that's totally fine. But that fine print is also ultimately still tarnishing the brand and the manufacturer. Up front, it's the dealer. That's the one we get pissed at. That's the one we write bad reviews about. But it's less likely that that same consumer is also then going to go write a bad review about that particular brand at Honda. And Honda's the one that's enforcing it. So we'll tag them in this and see if anyone from Honda has anything to say or contribute as to why that's a thing, and if something like that is ever going to change in the near future, because consumers want transparency.
Yeah, we've heard from multiple insiders now that that's happening, and it's probably not just Honda. I'm sure the other OEMs have told their franchises, don't post on your website the actual price coupled with the markups and all the mandatory add-ons that you're adding. Don't post that price, because it makes us look bad. But the problem is it makes you look even worse when you pull the bait and switch. It's pissing off customers. The fact that we can't go online and compare 5 dealerships across the board in the matter of minutes, that to me is a problem. I want to be able to go online, find an F-150, and compare 5 dealerships, and the price online better be what it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like that. If I have to drive all the way into the dealership, waste half a day, time is money. I don't have time to waste a half a day going into a dealership just to find out the price you showed online wasn't the actual price. It was a bait and switch, and you're adding a $10,000 markup. That pisses me off beyond belief. Like that, when that happens, and I'm sure the same, I'm just a customer. I'm sure just like other customers, when that happens to you, you are pissed. You wasted all that time. And now you're back to the drawing board, searching again just for it to happen again. You know, I think that it should be mandatory that the pricing that you see online, there's no hidden stuff. You can't hide a markup, an addendum, or a $3,000 inflated add-on that's like they spray some ceramic coat on the outside from AutoZone and call it a special shielding or something, and they spray some fabric guard on the seats, and all of a sudden it's waterproof, and they give you a $5,000 or a 5-year warranty on it for $3,000. Come on.
I can't wait.
Yeah, and that might be good.
Sorry, Bryce.
And that might be a good idea for another show too, is where we actually find out which of these dealers are notorious for that, and maybe try to get some of their feedback on that.
Majority, if honestly, and it's not talked about enough. When we hear other podcasts, they don't really discuss how rampant it is. The majority of online, all manufacturers, the majority of them hide the actual price online. It either says call us for pricing, or it says MSRP with the MSRP price, and they don't give you the markup, and they don't give you the add-ons that they're going to tack on. That's the majority of dealerships. I would say even as high as 80% of the dealerships. Now, there are good ones. You get online, and there may be a small minority of dealerships that actually post the out the door minus TTL, right? The out the door with all the markups and all the fees and doc fees and all that. they post it online, kudos. Like I commend, even when they're marked up, I still commend the dealerships that are doing that because they're being transparent. I don't have to waste my time trying to find out what that cost is going to be. But the majority of dealers are hiding the price. They're hiding the markups. And that's the whole reason behind the website. That's the whole reason I had to create markups, is because it's happening. They're hiding it. So we're going to air it out.
I can't wait until we tap into the recreational vehicle market, because I've actually been searching for an RV for the past, few weeks. And just, we decided for the holidays, it's easier to road trip. We can go to more automotive things, conferences, that just a little bit easier if we have a big, awesome RV. And I have had a very similar experience, like just trying to get the out the door price from a lot of these dealerships is absolutely insane. It's totally gated. We spent 3 days driving around New England. We went all the way to Cape Cod, to Connecticut, out to like Rhode Island, back to Connecticut. Like, we literally went to all these different dealerships because even by phone, I couldn't get the out the door price. So we're like, screw it. We're just going to make a road trip. And we went this past Saturday and we hit like 10 different places. And I ended up buying an RV yesterday or the day before from one that you sent me, Trey. I don't know how you found them. I guess it was on Facebook and it ended up being used. So I know it's not relevant, but that dealership is totally awesome. They also do cars. So I'm going to make sure that I do a shout out to them on a social post, because the experience was great. The price that was quoted that you sent me, Trey, is the price that I paid. And that was it. And they even threw in like all these extra awesome things that's just going to make my life easier to go on a road trip, whenever I want.
It's funny you mentioned that, because that says a lot about the dealership model. I personally am a fan of the dealership model. I think that you get better service, you get better sales service from a dealership. The OEM could never match that. The OEM could never come close to giving you what the dealership can give you. And the fact that just a few years ago, the dealerships used to really wheel and deal. Like, you could get, I bought the 2016 Tundra at like below invoice pricing in Houston. So the dealerships are great when you get a deal, but we all get super pissed off and upset when we're getting slapped with the markups. And believe me, I'm there because I created the website simply because they were doing it. Yeah. But you can't beat the dealership model. I don't think that we're going to gain anything by getting rid of sales through the dealerships. What I do think is that having a site like Markups, that maybe in the future they do mandate that the dealerships can't hide the markups and stuff, and then we start crawling the dealership prices and getting folks that amount above or below MSRP so they can find the best deals. Right?
That brings up a good point. A lot of people ask why we don't use crawlers, and that exactly answers why we don't use crawlers yet for markups.
It's not accurate.
Because a crawler can't get the out the door price. It's not listed online properly. It certainly doesn't, even if it says MSRP, if it is over MSRP, it doesn't give the differentiation of the two. So a crawler could never literally be able to tell the difference what above MSRP this is. So I think it's an important note because we do get asked that at least once a week is, why aren't you guys using crawlers? Oh, I got a lot of tech guys that can help out with that. And we will greatly take it when we're ready and when the market's ready and we're capable of doing that. But until then, it has to be something that's done manually by the people physically experiencing these things themselves.
Yeah, and the funny thing about the crawlers is that we do have crawlers. We are the crawlers. We are literally hand crawling Facebook, Reddit, forums. We are hand crawling and gathering these markups and posting them to the site when we capture them, because That's the only way we can get the real accurate data, because the dealerships just, they hide it. The majority hide it.
And our markup warriors, we now have 17 markup warriors. So they're all getting the essential membership for free because they're contributing at least 10 listings per month. That's all someone needs to do to get that free membership. But folks like that are absolutely our crawlers for now.